Hello, my stitchlings. Today I have 5 lesser known sea creatures that you've probably never even heard of. Because if I'm honest with you guys, I didn't even know of these. Now, before we get into the video, liking and subscribing does help the channel grow, and also it gives me motivation to keep it going. If you wouldn't mind to, leave a comment on what you would like next. This channel is here for your entertainment, and anything that you may have in mind, I would love to cover. Now anyways, let's go ahead and get into the meat of this, shall we? Beneath the surface of our world's most remote lakes and coastal waters, legends speak of creatures that defy explanation. For centuries, witnesses have reported encounters with massive serpentine beings, creatures so large and mysterious that they've become woven into the very fabric of local folklore. These aren't just stories passed down around campfires. These are documented sightings, recorded by explorers, farmers, fishermen, and even government officials, spanning hundreds of years. Now today, we're going to be deep diving into 5 of the most compelling sea serpent legends from around the globe, from the icy waters of Iceland to the dense jungles of Central Africa. These creatures have captured imaginations and sparked debates about what might truly lurk in the unexplored depths of our planet. The Lagarfljót Worm, Iceland's ancient lake dragon. Our journey begins in the remote islands of eastern Iceland, where the glacial lake Lagarfljót stretches like a mirror across the landscape. This isn't just a lake, it's one of Iceland's deepest, reaching 112 meters down, with 90 meters of that depth lying below sea level. The water is murky from glacial sediment, opaque and mysterious, hiding whatever secrets might rest in its depths. For over 700 years, this lake has been home to Iceland's most famous cryptid, the Lagarfljót Worm. The first written record of this creature dates back to 1345 in the Icelandic Annals, making it one of the oldest documented lake monster legends in the world. According to local folklore, the creature's origin story reads like something from a fairy tale with a dark twist. The legend tells of a young girl who gives a small golden worm, said to multiply her wealth if placed atop on gold. She put the worm in a chest with her gold, but something went wrong. The worm began to grow uncontrollably, becoming so large and frightening that she threw both the chest and the creature into Lagarfljót. There, in the lake's depths, it continued to grow, eventually becoming the massive serpent that locals claim still inhabits the water today. But what makes this legend particularly fascinating isn't just its age, it's the consistency of the sightings. Unlike typical sea serpent descriptions, witnesses describe the Lagarfljót worm as having no distinct head or even facial features. Instead, they report seeing humps or segments breaking the surface, moving in an undulated pattern that suggests something massive moving just beneath the water. One of the most detailed early accounts comes from 1637. When multiple eyewitnesses claimed to see the creature near the shore. They described a large, coiling body moving against the current, significant because the lake typically shows no obvious flow. This multi-witness sighting was documented at the time, giving it more credibility than isolated reports. The sightings continued into the modern era. In 1963, workers constructing a hydroelectric plant along the river that feeds into Lagarfljót reported seeing a large, worm-like figure moving upstream against the current. What made this sighting particularly noteworthy was the controlled environment. These weren't tourists or locals influenced by folklore, but workers in an industrial setting. 1983, an entire group of tourists and locals reported seeing a large, serpent-like object in the water. Unlike previous brief glimpses, this sighting reportedly lasted several minutes, allowing observers to note its segmented appearance and rolling motion. Then came 2012, when farmer Cheryl Fjorter recorded a video that would change everything. The footage showed what appeared to be a large object moving beneath the water's surface, creating ripples and disturbances that seemed to suggest something massive swimming just below. The video went viral, attracting international attention and prompting experts to analyze the footage. The analysis revealed several possible explanations. It could have been a tangled fishing net caught in the current, or perhaps a frozen mass of plant material drifting under the ice. But a small number of analysts argued that the footage was consistent with earlier eyewitness descriptions, though no conclusive proof was found. Interestingly, the video's impact was so significant that local authorities officially recognized the existence of the Lagarfljót Worm in 2014, though this was largely a symbolic gesture to acknowledge the creature's cultural importance, rather than a scientific declaration. Scientific explanations for the sightings include glacial phenomena, where sediment-rich water can cause debris to move in unusual ways, and optical illusions created by the lake's long, narrow shape combined with light refraction. Some suggest misidentified wildlife, large schools of fish or unusual eels, might account for some encounters. But what keeps the legend alive isn't just the sightings. It's the deep cultural significance the creature holds in Iceland. Unlike commercialized lake monsters elsewhere, the Lagarfljót Worm remains tied to authentic local folklore, preserved partly by the geographical isolation of the lake itself. But what keeps the legend alive isn't just the sightings, it's the deep cultural significance the creature holds in Iceland. Unlike commercialized lake monsters elsewhere, this cryptid remains tied to authentic local folklore, preserved partly by the geographical isolation of the lake itself. Next is the Tizheruk, which is Sweden's Great Lake monster. From Iceland's ancient waters, we travel to Sweden, where Lake Storjörn, near the city of Östersund, harbors its own legendary inhabitant. The Tizheruk, meaning the Great Lake monster, has been Sweden's most famous lake cryptid for nearly 400 years. The first recorded sighting dates back to 1635, making the Tizheruk older than even the legendary Loch Ness monster in terms of documented encounters. What sets this Swedish serpent apart is its sheer number of witnesses. Approximately 500 people have claimed to see the creature over the centuries, with sightings continuing almost every summer through the 20th century. The descriptions of the Tizheruk vary, but most witnesses describe a creature measuring around 10 meters long with a distinctive dog-like or snake-like head. Some report seeing humps and fins breaking the surface, while others describe a more serpentine body moving through the water with powerful undulations. One of the most detailed historical accounts comes from October 13, 1893, when sisters Marta and Karin Olsen were washing clothes on the beach near Solbyen. They saw what they described as an animal's head rising and falling in the water. When Karin threw stones at it, Curious about what they were seeing, the creature swam swiftly towards the shore, a detail that suggests intelligence and reactivity rather than a floating object or even an optical illusion. The woman ran, but they watched as the animal eventually submerged. The creature became such a prominent part of local culture that in the 1890s, common interest sparked the formation of an organized effort to even capture it. A group of locals founded an enterprise specifically to catch the monster, and they managed to obtain sponsorship from none other than King Oscar II of Sweden. They even constructed a massive iron trap, which can still be seen today in Östersund. The capture attempt, though ultimately unsuccessful, was significant enough to be featured in the satirical cartoon by Albert Engström in Strix magazine, showing how deeply the creature had penetrated public consciousness. What's particularly fascinating about the Storhördjuret is how seriously it's been taken by official authorities. When Östersund celebrated its 200-year anniversary in 1986, the Jämtland County Administrative Board declared Storhördjuret, along with its offspring and nest, to be protected by law. This legal protection remained in place until 2005, making it perhaps the only cryptid to receive official government protection. In August 2008, a film crew claimed to have captured new evidence of the creature. Using infrared cameras, they reported detecting an endothermic mass in the lake, something generating its own heat, which, by the way, would be consistent with a large living creature. In August 2008, a film crew claimed to have captured new evidence of the creature. Using infrared cameras, they reported detecting an endothermic mass in the lake, something generating its own heat, which would be consistent with a large living creature. While the footage sparked renewed interest, it wasn't conclusive enough to satisfy skeptics. Modern witness accounts continue to describe encounters with something massive in the lake. One witness described seeing a creature with a snake-like head, which she described as larger than what a net could support, suggesting something beyond the realm of known lake wildlife. The creature's cultural impact extends beyond Sweden. Storhördjuret is so well known that it rivals the Loch Ness Monster in terms of recognition among cryptid enthusiasts. The city of Östersund has embraced its monster, with the creature becoming a symbol of the region and a draw for tourists interested in cryptozoology. Unlike some cryptids' legends that fade over time, Storhördjuret sightings have remained remarkably consistent. The descriptions, while varying in details, share common elements: a large, serpentine creature with a distinctive head, intelligent behavior, and the ability to move rapidly through the water when disturbed. On the next we have the Tizheruk, the Arctic serpent of the Inuit legend. From the temperate lakes of Europe, our journey takes us to the harsh, icy waters of the Arctic, where the Inuit people have long spoken of a creature that embodies the dangerous power of the northern seas. The Tizheruk, also known as the Palrajuk in some dialects, is a massive sea serpent said to inhabit the coastal waters near King Island and Nunivak Island in Alaska's Bering Sea. Unlike the lake monsters we've explored before, the Tizheruk is a creature of the open ocean, adapted to the brutal conditions of Arctic waters. According to Inuit tradition, this serpent possesses a 2-meter head, roughly 6.5 feet, and a powerful tail equipped with a flipper, suggesting a creature perfectly evolved for life in the sea. What makes the Tizheruk particularly terrifying in Inuit lore is its hunting behavior. The creature is said to be incredibly stealthy, capable of approaching its prey without being detected. Local accounts describe the Tizheruk as having the ability to snatch people off piers and shorelines, without their noticing its presence until it's too late. This stealth, combined with its massive size, make it one of the most feared creatures in Inuit mythology. The Tizheruk's physical description varies somewhat between different Inuit communities, but most accounts describe a creature that can appear seal-like from a distance, which may explain its ability to approach unsuspecting victims. This camouflage ability would be particularly effective in Arctic waters, where seals are common and their presence wouldn't alarm anyone on shore. For the Inuit people, who have lived along Alaska's rugged coastlines for thousands of years, the sea was never just a source of food. It was a realm of mystery and power. The Tizheruk emerged from this worldview as a guardian of the waters, a spirit that demanded respect and caution. Elders passed down tales of hunters who vanished near the shore, their disappearances attributed to encounters with this massive serpent. The cultural significance of the Tizheruk extends beyond simply fear. In many Inuit communities, the creature serves as a reminder of the ocean's power and unpredictability. Stories of the Tizheruk often carry moral lessons about respecting the sea and understanding one's place in the natural world. Modern sightings of the Tizheruk are relatively rare, but they do occur. In 2015, the Bureau of Land Management captured video footage of what some believe may have been a Tizheruk in Alaskan waters. The footage shows a large, serpentine form moving through the water. Though like many cryptid videos, it's not clear enough to provide definitive proof. The creature has been compared to other water-dwelling cryptids like Canada's Ogopogo and the Haitlik of Nuchalnuth lore, showing how widespread sea serpent legends are across indigenous cultures of the Pacific Northwest and Arctic regions. What sets the Tizheruk apart from other sea serpents is its integration into a living cultural tradition. While some cryptids exist primarily as folklore or tourist attractions, the Tizheruk remains part of contemporary Inuit culture, with elders still sharing stories and warnings about the creature with younger generations. The Arctic environment adds another layer of mystery to Tizheruk encounters. The extreme conditions, freezing temperatures, limited visibility, and treacherous ice make investigation difficult and increase the likelihood that any real encounters would go unrecorded or be dismissed as imagination. Next, we have the Gloucester Sea Serpent, which is America's most documented marine mystery. In the summer of 1817, the quiet fishing town of Gloucester, Massachusetts became the center of one of the most extraordinary cryptid investigations in American history. What began as scattered reports of an unusual creature in the harbor quickly escalated into a phenomenon that would capture the attention of scientists, newspapers, and the public across New England and beyond. The heyday of sightings began in August 1817 and continued into 1818 to 1819 roughly, with the creature described as a massive serpent-like creature with humps along its back. But this wasn't just another sea monster story. Hundreds of eyewitness accounts described a 100-foot-long, large-eyed, sharp-toothed, scaly, reptilian beast lurking in the waters off Gloucester Harbor. According to an article published in the Boston Daily Advertiser on August 18, 1817, a prodigious snake had been sighted in the harbor by hundreds of people over the course of several days. What made this case unique was the sheer number, witnesses, and the credibility of many who came forward. These weren't isolated fishermen's tales told in the taverns. They were detailed accounts from respected members of the community, including ship captains, merchants, and even government officials. The creature's appearance was remarkably consistent across multiple witnesses. They described a serpent-like animal with a length estimated between 80 to 100 feet, with a body thickness comparable to a barrel. Most witnesses described seeing distinct humps along its back, typically numbering between 13 and 30, depending on how much of the creature was visible above water. The head was described as resembling that of a horse or a turtle, and many witnesses noticed its large, prominent eyes. What truly set the Gloucester Sea Serpent apart from other cryptid sightings was the official scientific investigation it prompted. John Davis, a U.S. District Court judge and president of the Linnean Society of England, organized a formal investigation into the sightings. This was perhaps the first time in American history that a scientific organization had taken cryptid reports seriously enough to conduct a proper investigation. The Linnean Society dispatched a team to Gloucester to interview witnesses and gather evidence. They collected sworn testimonies from dozens of observers, creating what remains as one of the most comprehensive documented cases of a sea serpent sighting in history. The Society's investigation lent credibility to the reports and helped establish a new template for future cryptozoological research. August 23, 1817, Captain Beach made a detailed drawing of the creature as he observed it near Cape Ann. This illustration, published by E.J. Lane and J. Howell Boston, became the most definitive visual representation of the Gloucester Sea Serpent and remains one of the most famous cryptid illustrations in American history. The story took an even more extraordinary turn when 4 weeks after Beach's drawing was made, a young serpent of similar appearance, supposedly the child of a larger serpent, was killed by a farmer named Mr. Colby in a field near Lolly Cave. The creature was examined by members of the Linnean Society, who initially believed they had captured evidence of a juvenile sea serpent. However, upon closer examination, the specimen was identified as a common black snake with unusual deformities. This misidentification became a cautionary tale in cryptozoological research, demonstrating how the desire to find evidence could lead to misinterpretation of common animals. However, it didn't diminish the credibility of the original sightings, as the captured snake bore little resemblance to the massive creature described by witnesses in the harbor. Gloucester Sea Serpent continued to be reported sporadically through 1818 and 1819, with sightings extending past Gloucester to other areas around Cape Ann. Harvard professor Jacob Bigelow called the phenomenon the most interesting problem in the science of natural history, highlighting the serious scientific attention the case received. Interestingly, the Gloucester sightings weren't the first in New England waters. As early as 1638, English traveler John Jocelyn had written about a sea serpent seen off the coast of Gloucester, describing it as coiled like a cable upon a rod. This earlier account suggests that the 1817 sightings may have been part of a longer tradition of sea serpent encounters in New England waters. Cultural impact of the Gloucester Sea Serpent extended far beyond the town itself. Newspaper accounts spread across the country, inspiring songs, poems, and even theatrical productions. The creature became a symbol of American maritime mystery, representing the unknown dangers and wonders that might lurk in the nation's coastal waters. Modern analysis of the Gloucester Sea Serpent case has proposed various explanations. Schools of dolphins swimming in formation, large sharks, or even floating logs that may have created the illusion of a serpentine creature. However, none of these explanations fully account for the detailed, consistent descriptions provided by so many credible witnesses. What makes the Gloucester Sea Serpent particularly significant in cryptozoological history is that it established many of the patterns we see in modern cryptid investigations. Multiple witnesses, official investigation, detailed documentation, and the ongoing debate between believers and skeptics. It proved that sea serpent sightings could transcend folklore and become subjects of serious scientific inquiry. And now for our final journey. It takes us deep into the heart of Central Africa, to the remote rivers and swamps of the Congo Basin, where one of the world's most intriguing cryptid legends continues to persist. The Okele Bimbe, whose name derives from the Lingala language and roughly translates to one who stops the flow of rivers, represents something extraordinary in the world of cryptozoology, a creature that, if real, could rewrite our understanding of natural history. Unlike the serpentine creatures we've explored, the Okele Bimbe is described as something altogether different, a living dinosaur. According to eyewitness accounts and indigenous narratives from across Cameroon, the Republic of Congo, and the Central African Republic, this creature resembles a prehistoric sauropod dinosaur, similar to what we might call a brontosaurus. The descriptions are remarkably consistent across different tribes and regions. Witnesses describe a creature with a long, flexible neck extending from a massive body, a small head, and according to some accounts, only one tooth. The creature is said to be of brownish gray in color, perfectly camouflaged against the muddy waters and dense vegetation of the Congo's river systems. Its size rivals that of an elephant, with smooth skin and a powerful tail that it supposedly uses to devastatingly affect boats that venture too close. What makes Okelembembe particularly fascinating is its behavior as described by local populations. Unlike aggressive movie monsters, the creature is said to be primarily herbivorous, feeding on the abundant plant life along the riverbanks. However, it's also described as highly territorial and dangerous when threatened. Local legends speak of the creature attacking boats and even humans who venture into its domain, leading many native guides to refuse to travel to certain areas of the river system. The first Western documentation of Okelebembe came from German explorer Captain Ferrier von Stein zu Laschnitz in 1913, during an expedition to map the Cameroon interior. Von Stein collected numerous reports from local inhabitants about a mysterious creature living in the region's rivers and swamps. His report described a creature that, according to the natives, boasted a brownish-gray color and rivaled an elephant in size, with smooth skin, a long neck, and a small head. What made von Stein's account particularly compelling was its scientific approach. Rather than dismissing local reports as superstition, he systematically documented the descriptions and noted their consistency across different tribal groups who had no contact with each other. What made von Stein's account particularly compelling was its scientific approach. Rather than dismissing local reports as superstition, he systematically documented the descriptions and noted their consistency across different tribal groups who had no contact with each other. This suggested that the reports were based on actual encounters rather than shared mythology. The search for Okelebembe intensified in the 1980s when biologist Roy Mackal led several expeditions into the Congo Basin. Mackal, who co-founded the International Society of Cryptozoology, approached the search with scientific rigor, equipped with modern recording equipment and a team of researchers. During his 1981 expedition, McCall's team gathered numerous eyewitness accounts and reported finding unusual tracks along riverbanks, though no definitive evidence of the creature itself. One of the most intriguing aspects of the McCall's investigation was the discovery that local populations had detailed knowledge of various other cryptids in the region, including the Emila Tuka, described as a creature with a single horn, and the Guma Monene, another serpentine water dweller. This suggested a rich ecosystem of unknown creatures, or at least a complex mythology surrounding the region's wildlife. In 1983, Marcelin Agnagna, a Congolese biologist, claimed to have had a direct encounter with the Okelebembe in Lake Delhi. According to his account, he observed a creature with a long neck protruding from the water for about 20 minutes. Unfortunately, his camera malfunctioned and no photographic evidence was obtained. Despite this lack of physical proof, Agnagna's scientific credentials and detailed description added credibility to the ongoing search. The quest for Okelebembe has continued into the 21st century, with over 50 expeditions launched since the early 90s. These have ranged from serious scientific endeavors to sensationalized television productions, but none have produced conclusive evidence of the creature's existence. However, the expeditions have contributed valuable scientific knowledge about the Congo Basin's biodiversity, discovering new species of plants and even animals, even if they haven't found their primary target. Recent years have seen a reported increase in the Okelebembe sightings, though these remain unverified. Local populations continue to report encounters with the creature, and some researchers suggest that the climate change and increased human activity in the region might be affecting the creature's behavior, if it exists. The scientific community remains largely skeptical of the Okelebembe's existence, pointing to the lack of physical evidence despite numerous expeditions. Critics argued that the descriptions might be based on known animals like forest elephants or large crocodiles, viewed under poor conditions and embellished through retelling. The dense, difficult terrain of the Congo Basin makes thorough investigation challenging, and the political instability in the region has limited scientific access. However, supporters of the Okelebembe theory point out that the Congo Basin remains one of the least explored regions on Earth. New species are discovered regularly in the area, and the possibility of large, unknown animals persisting in such a remote ecosystem isn't entirely beyond scientific possibility. The consistency of reports across cultures and time periods suggests that something is generating these encounters, even if it's not actually a living dinosaur. What makes Okelebembe unique among cryptids is its cultural significance to the indigenous populations of Central Africa. Unlike cryptids that exist primarily in Western imagination, the Okelebembe is deeply embedded in local traditions and contemporary belief systems. For many native inhabitants, the creature isn't a subject of speculation. It's a known entity that requires respect and caution when traveling through its territory. The legend of Okelebembe also represents something deeper: humanity's enduring fascination with the possibility that dinosaurs might still walk the earth. In an age where we can sequence genomes and map ocean floors, the idea that a living dinosaur might persist in one of the world's last unexplored wildernesses captures our imagination and speaks to our desire for the mystery in an increasingly unknown world. The legend of Okelebembe also represents something deeper: humanity's enduring fascination with the possibility that dinosaurs might still walk the earth. As we've journeyed across the globe today, from Iceland's ancient glacial lakes to the Arctic seas, from Sweden's protected monster to the scientifically investigated waters of Massachusetts and the unexplored rivers of Central Africa, we've encountered legends that span centuries and cultures. These aren't just stories. They're documented encounters reported by hundreds of witnesses, investigated by scientists, and woven into the cultural fabric of their respected regions. What makes these accounts so compelling isn't just their longevity, but their consistency. Across different continents and cultures, people describe remarkably similar encounters with the massive serpentine creatures that seem to exist just beyond the edge of our understanding. Whether these creatures represent unknown species, misidentified known animals, or natural phenomena that we don't fully understand, they serve as powerful reminders that our planet still holds mysteries. In an age where we can map the surface of Mars, vast regions of our own oceans and remote lakes remain largely unexplored. Perhaps the truth lies not in proving or disproving these legends, but in understanding what they tell us about the human relationship between the natural world. They remind us that nature is vast, mysterious, and worthy of our respect, and that sometimes the most compelling mysteries are the ones that remain unsolved. The waters of Lagarfljót still ripple with unexplained movements. Lake Sturlunn continues to harbor its protected monster. The Arctic seas keep their secrets, and somewhere in the depths, the ancient stories continue to unfold, waiting for the next witness to peer into the water and wonder, what was that?